Hello, friends. Welcome back to Stylist Soul Tribe Conversations. I am joined today by Jessica Winnie, also known as Winney. She's an esthetician of 8 years who discovered web design in 2020 when she was trying to survive the shutdowns in California and having a baby that same year. She said that building her own Shopify site has changed her life in so many ways and is now changing other beauty pros' lives too. So, do I call you Jess? Do I call you Jessica? Do I call you Winnie? What do you like to go by? I should have asked you that before we hit record.
Yeah, just to keep it like across the board. You can say Winnie. It's so funny. I get the same thing all the time from clients and other estheticians who've known me as Winnie for years. And
Mhm.
they're like, wait, who's Jessica? And I was like, oh no,
That's so
same
funny.
person.
Okay, Winnie's so cute. I love that. So Winnie and I are getting to know each other for the very first time right now. We were just chatting before I hit record, talking about all the little connections we have to each other. But I reached out to her because I was on a Stylist Soul Tribe call about a month ago, and Kate is a member of Stylist Soul Tribe, and we were in her tribe call, and we were just having a conversation about websites. And I pointed out that I've had Alana Zilkowski on this podcast before, and she's a member of Stylist Soul Tribe. She does web design for hairstylists too. And I was talking to that tribe about how Alana has realized that the way that websites are being taught in our industry right now technically isn't really like search engine optimized. Like she just found it interesting. She started kind of dabbling in this. She took some more SEO courses and she was like, the really big name educators that are kind of creating templates and giving everyone the roadmap for how to build websites, it's not that they're like bad, but they definitely could be more search engine optimized. And I said that to the group, and Kate was like, that's so funny that you say that. I have a friend who's an esthetician who does websites for other estheticians and other beauty professionals, and she has told me the same thing before. And then I was like, okay, interesting. Who's your friend? Because then I was like, my wheels were all instantly turning. Like, I need to have her on the podcast. I need to pick her brain. And then she goes, yeah, and she also helps estheticians create Shopify stores, and they're seeing like tens of thousands of dollars of revenue per month from these
Yeah.
Shopify stores. And I'm like, Kate, what are you talking about? Who is this person and how do I get her on the podcast? And so Kate connected us, and I'm so grateful to have you on. So let's kind of dive into it, Winnie. That's my perception. How does that all land? And kind of tell us a little bit about you, your story, and then we'll start diving into the nitty gritty of all this.
Yeah. So, like you mentioned, it happened out of nowhere. If you would have told me in 2019, even the early 2020, hey, you're going to be a web designer or just a
Yeah.
designer in general, I would have been like, no, I don't know anything about that.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, so like you said, I had a baby literally mid 2020 in July.
Mm,
That would be my second one. I had just moved counties. I had just
mm.
moved my business and then everything. And California shut down for 9 months, plus trying to take off time for the baby. And I just
Talk
remember
about everything changing. Yeah.
in at
Mm.
the time, I don't know how it was in the hairstylist world, but
Mhm.
all the estheticians, thank goodness, we had so much support from our clients that we were selling facial kits.
Yeah,
We
we were doing root touch-up kits, so it's interesting to hear how
Okay.
the industry was going about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember I think the first batch that people bought, there was like 80 something that I had sent out. And I
Wow.
was like, this is terrible because I was doing it all like in my notes app. What's your address?
Yeah.
Okay, did you pay via Venmo or is that or like whatever?
So a facial at home was just like a travel cleanser, moisturizer,
Yeah,
like
it was like the cleanser, the toner, like it was eye mask, really
okay.
gentle, the
Mhm.
people that I knew, like my clients, I threw in a little something more intense
Mhm.
for them. Yeah,
Yeah.
like a mask. I gave away like cold rollers and stuff, just like a fun little
Amazing.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I look back and it's so funny how like janky everything looked, but it was so cool just to remember like
You were
everybody was
just getting creative.
so
Yeah.
fair. Yeah. So the first round, I was like, this is terrible. I hate
Mm.
this. But there was such success with this. So I was like, like, I wonder how you can sell and like how I can sell this next batch. And
Yeah.
in my head, I didn't know anything about anything. I think I've only knew about like Squarespace because their ads were everywhere. I've heard of Shopify,
Yeah.
but I think even to this day, most people are like, "Oh no, you just sell products on there." Like,
Uh-huh.
I didn't think about it, and I remember looking up big things like Big Cartel, Etsy, and I was like, "I don't think this is what I'm looking for." And I kept coming back to Shopify on YouTube, like, "If you
Mm.
want to sell products, blah blah blah," and I was like, "Okay." So I made a
Yeah.
Shopify account, and looking in hindsight now, especially talking with other designers, it's so funny because Shopify is such a monster to people. Like this
Yeah.
is their go-to platform right off the bat. I think now people are finally like, "Oh, wait." this is where it's at,
For sure.
So it's great that I decided to start at the hardest point. I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I really like threw this website together. It did
Mhm.
take a long time because I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
I started listening to podcasts about e-commerce in general. I was learning it, I put it together, and obviously I took the people through the journey, and I think that was the biggest thing that really led to the initial success of
Just
it.
documenting your
Yeah.
experience
Mhm.
during COVID shutdowns, going all in on learning something new.
Yeah, because a lot
Okay.
of my audience, so my esthetician Instagram I grew it pretty large.
Mhm.
So that one's Studio Winney, and I
Okay.
went off of that for a while because
Yeah.
web design took off so well. People loved watch. They were like, "Oh my god!" Because I have two kids. I have right now he's 17, and then I have a 4-year-old now. But yeah, they were like, "Oh my god, it's so cool to see like what you're doing." And so they were hyped.
Yeah.
I had people from other states like watching and being like, "This is cool.
Incredible.
Like, I'm so happy for you. This is so cool. Like you just had a baby. Blah 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 blah."
Yeah.
In my head, I'm like, yeah. I'm just trying to get through like the next month. And
Yeah.
yeah, I launched it. I had like a huge, to me at the time, it was whoa, because I had never
Yeah.
seen that big of an
So
income.
when you launched it, what kind of products were available?
It was all skincare. So I was
Okay.
just thinking of the brands that I primarily use, which was like
Mhm.
Fix Reality for acne, a lot of acne stuff, Skin Script, which is more, you're still a professional brand, but they're a little bit more like beginner friendly. Um,
Mhm.
and then like fun stuff like the jelly masks and things like that. And I
Mhm.
invested in cold rollers, like I said, and gua sha stones and just basically anything I could get my hands on
So
because
almost like a little boutique,
yeah,
almost. I mean,
yeah,
obviously you have your license, so some products that you get at wholesale, probably get all of
yes,
them, but also just like assuming Kitsch or Fair or some of those
yeah.
wholesalers that we know about.
Yeah,
Fascinating.
yeah, so actually the Alibaba was for the
Okay.
yeah, I actually still have cold rollers, that's how many
Incredible. Well, yeah, because Alibaba, you need really big minimum orders.
and it was
Yeah.
only like 250 and I still have like
That's hilarious. Well,
yeah,
I've made, okay, so I'm totally going to selfishly pick your brain a little bit. I
yeah,
have these journals, which go with Soul Tribe. I have these Oracle decks. I have some merch, and I use Shopify for that as well. But I really just target it to Stylist Soul Tribe members. And these journals, that's why I say I remember Alibaba, because these are like really well made and they are made in the US. But at first, when I had the initial idea of this companion guided journal that goes along with the Stylist Soul Tribe membership, I looked into Alibaba, but I needed to order like 2,000 of them, and there was just no way for me to do that. So I
yeah,
ended up finding a creator on Etsy that makes these custom leather bound. I mean, they're high quality, they're amazing. I'm obsessed with them. But I find that so fascinating that that's the way that you went about it. Because, like I said, I dabble with Shopify, but not in the way that you're doing it. So I would love to hear, how did that go from you doing this on your own, obviously documenting it, which I'm a huge fan of, document over create, and just sharing your life and your
mhm.
journey into offering this from to other people? How did that jump take place?
Honestly, I think it was because of the documenting. Even now with marketing, I think we've seen it's people wanna buy from people, and this is before I knew
Hmm.
about marketing, and that's all I knew. I was just
Yeah.
like, this is my only connection to people at the time too, and especially
Hmm.
postpartum, it was like, instead of going crazy, I was like
Yeah.
trying to get through it, and yeah, I wanna say maybe I think people just started to see me like, "Oh my god, I sold out. Thank you so much. I'm gonna, get
Mm,
orders in." Sold out again, and at the
amazing.
time, not a lot of people they did maybe have Shopify sites but nobody talked about it. They in their
Yeah.
head, kinda like how you said your approach, it was like, "Oh, this is just
Yeah.
my people. I don't talk about that." And
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
want you to like give me guidance on how you would say I could expand that, because I don't know if I'm taking full advantage of what I have
"Yeah."
right now.
So I think it gave everybody a different perspective, which is so funny because this was the only perspective I had going
Hmm.
to, because obviously I wasn't gonna sell like really intense things to random people, but I
For
was just
sure.
selling the basics. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just remember thinking like I needed as many sales as possible to keep this
Mhm.
going. I want to say like estheticians were like, "Oh my God, what's your site on? Who built your site?" And I was just like, "Oh no, I threw it together."
Me. Yeah.
In my head, it was just like, yeah. Go figure it out.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and that was probably going into 2021. And then I had a couple people ask me like, "Oh, about tips and how to's," and I would say, "This is where I learned, this is what I do." But eventually I was
Hmm.
like, "Can you do it for me? Like, can you just help
Yeah.
me? I'll kick you down a few bucks," like, so it's
Hmm.
little changes. It's so funny because at the time I'm like YouTubing it as I'm doing it. I'm like,
No kidding.
Sick. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And then sending the invoice, and it's like, you could have done this yourself, but thanks. Now I
Yeah,
can go
and
do
at
it
the time, it
again.
wasn't even
Yeah.
invoice, it was, Venmo real quick or something, because
Yeah.
at the time I was like, "Sure."
Mm-hmm.
And then 2021, you're still getting kinda back into the swing of things, and then one of this esthetician, she's fairly well known in the industry, her name is Rianne, she's the master esthetician, she just is so much knowledge and constantly just put out knowledge, I wanna say for even longer than I've had a career, but,
Wow.
she has a really successful med spa up up in Washington, I believe,
Okay.
and, she reached out and she was like, "Hey, how did you make this? I'm gonna use" and I believe hair companies do this too, where you get a
Yeah.
link to your own store on their
Mm-hmm.
website and you just get a commission from it.
Yeah.
And so she's, "I don't need products yet, I'm not at that point, but can you help me build this site that has my
Mm-hmm.
services and whatnot, but then my links?" And I said, "Sure." And at the time, I was just looking up websites and in the industry that was big that I was looking in, which was design and marketing. I tell people now because I do digital marketing for people, my clients only in the back end, but
Yeah.
say you have to look beyond what are other industries doing. Don't look
Mm.
at ours. Everybody's recycling the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
hairstylists, even waxers, even barbers. We're all like recycling the
Yeah.
same ideas. I go, look outside your industry.
Mm.
What are the real, like the big marketers doing? What are these CEO type people doing? What are designers doing? Like people that
Yeah.
have to be ahead of you, have to be on trend all the time. That's where you get ideas. And I didn't realize that until that's what I was doing, right? Because I was
Yeah.
like, no, why wouldn't you do that? And everybody's like,
So what industries were you looking into then?
I ended up falling into graphic designers first and brand designers because that's who had podcasts that were like
Mm-hmm.
somewhat personable. But then there was, a lot of women who were like designers and really just talking about this is how I got started. But I just kept listening and it was like an obsession. Finally, she was like, "Yeah, whatever. Can you help me build this whole site?" And so I didn't need to use Shopify at the time. So I used Show It,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is a beautiful platform. And it was big for photographers at the time. Now, like everybody
Okay.
uses it, and it's easy to have templates, which I think it's nice, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure if I'm going to use it that much longer. But anyway,
Okay.
she had done her site, and she was like, "How much do I pay you?" And I was like, "Oh,
You're like,
I
I have no idea.
okay." And I tried to be official. I was like, "Let's have a"
Yeah.
writing it down on
What's your budget?
like writing it down notes. And I think I told her like $800 or something
Mm-hmm.
like that, which at the time I was like, "Hey." And she was like, "Yeah, okay." It took me like 4 weeks, which I told her it was going to take me, but the whole time it was getting paid to learn how to do it. Dove in and I was obsessed with that. She loved it. It came out. Looking back, actually, I'm currently redoing her shop for Shopify now.
Love.
And, yeah, looking back, I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm so glad you love the website," but I see now the growth that I've had.
No kidding. So is
Yeah,
she selling products now or is she still just doing
she's
affiliate?
about to launch. Yeah, so she's
Wow.
about to launch her
So
site.
that's probably exciting on your back end, like knowing the audience she has and
Oh,
knowing that that's getting ready to roll out. That's very exciting.
yeah, so she was the first person, and I think once she said something, a couple other people had me on their radar, and then I had the second person was the freckled esthetician. Her name's Haley, and I know that so vividly because we
Hmm.
still work together to this day.
Amazing.
And we built her site on Show It. She had such fast growth after that. She's in Texas.
So
And
like give us some numbers. What are you talking about when you say that?
so she started off with like 80 products. She was home based. She was just getting started.
So she's
Um,
ordering these products to her house or she starts with pre-order?
yeah, so she's ordering these products to
So
her house.
she's sitting on inventory and right now it's 80 SKUs.
80,
Okay. And then
80.
about how deep are those SKUs going? What was that investment for someone to get into that?
So to invest with me, I said 1,200 because I was like, let me
Hmm.
roll up a little bit. And she's going to be
Hmm.
selling product. So I did the website. And then I didn't know exact numbers back then, but
Yeah.
she told me, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know that people would be so excited about this. I'm loving this." And
And the majority of people purchasing were her existing clientele.
yes, yeah. So her
Interesting.
existing, but she had a bigger following at the
Hmm.
time in her area, which is near Dallas. Um,
Hmm.
so people were like, "How do I buy?" She's like, "People are reaching out. I
Yeah.
did not expect this."
Yeah.
And so she was on that website, and then it wasn't till we switched her to Shopify was when it was the first time I felt like, "Oh, I know what I'm doing for
Like
the
I
most."
really cracked a code here. This is exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can do a really good job and you can make a lot more money. And she was
Wow.
like, "Okay." That's how our relationship's been. So you just Tell me, explain it, what's gonna happen. And I'm like, yeah, I think we should do this. She's like, okay. She had hit over 500 by herself. And
Just from her Shopify store?
so no, it's her retail now, her Shopify, her whole business with her Shopify, she's hit about two. So
Wow.
mhm.
Nearly doubling her annual revenue just by
Yeah.
adding that piece in.
Yeah, so this, and
Incredible.
I will say a big part of that is she talks about it constantly. She links to it. She talks about it. She
Mm-hmm.
email marketing. And this is all something we've implemented to sales. Um,
Yeah.
and that's what's kept her growth. And I say that really because that's such an important piece. I do
Mm-hmm.
have had people, not so much recently, who have been like, okay, well, my site's up. Like,
But
I'm like,
you can see it's just that kind of secret sauce, like that it factor. You can tell when someone has it. You can't teach anyone how to do it. They either have it or they don't. And it's the people that really build those connections and almost build that like
mhm,
personal brand, but
mhm.
then now has something to offer that does serve their clients well. But people, like you said, love the person that they're buying it from. That why would they go somewhere else and get it when this person that they love following online has that same exact thing and you get to support them.
Exactly.
So if you have you done have worked with hairstylists ever?
Yeah. So my first hairstylist she actually was an esthetician, but she owned a whole boutique um,
Okay.
in Kansas, I want to say.
Okay.
And so that was the first hairstylist that I had done because she had like two or three hairstylists on her team. It was just her,
Mm-hmm.
an esthetician, and a nail artist. So
Mm-hmm.
that was the first time I had to do one of those big drop down menus where it was like shop skin, shop hair,
Yeah.
shop body, shop all these. That was really cool because she used the same line as Kate does. And so I was
Okay.
like, oh, I know these products. So it
Yeah.
was really cool. I think one thing that really set me apart in this industry is that these girls do not have to explain to me what they're looking for, what their clients
Mm-hmm.
are looking for. They don't have to explain what they do, especially as
Yeah.
I'm like, I know ingredients, I know
No
services, I know
kidding. Yeah.
about it. And I think that's what's made the process so easy for people to
Mm.
be like, why wouldn't I do this? You know?
Really? So legality wise, I think what stops a lot of people, I know a lot of people using like Vagaro or Square, it comes with an online store. And so they like dabble in this, but mostly it's their clients buying product and then swinging by and picking it up.
Yeah.
Legality wise, as long as you have a retail tax ID, is it totally okay to really sell probably any product, right? Or is there any gray area where that gets tricky?
No, so I mean, obviously, like in your state, it really depends. Like, for example, when it comes to a website online, everybody has to have a privacy policy. You have to have
Hmm.
and Shopify ensures you have to have like a shipping and return policy, even if it's no
Hmm.
returns, like you have to
Hmm.
have that stated. So
Yeah.
that's the important things, which is great. You should have that anyway. Other than that, the really restrictions I've seen have been with brands enforcing that. So, hey,
Okay.
you can't have an add to cart button, but you can have like
Mm,
contact me or, something like
interesting.
that. We don't want regular people coming to buy, which I mean, my personal opinion, I'm like, we're investing thousands of dollars of how much
Hmm.
you're telling me I can't sell this, like,
Yeah.
and all these random people are probably selling the same thing on Amazon. Like, it's just ridiculous.
No
So,
kidding. Yeah. And so fair to say, probably with time, you would think that would be the trajectory that brands would be going, because why would they not want
so
that, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's so funny because I tell people, look, I'm on your side. I am the
Hmm.
provider too. I think you should be making as much as money as possible. I
Yeah.
tell people I'm literally building you a money making machine. So
Hmm.
how do we get that for you? Right. And so I say,
Yeah.
okay, well, there's been moments where I've even looked like, what are these restrictions? Okay, well, can we do a private shop? Can we do a password protected shop? And so we'll,
Mm.
if I can, I'll try to
Find
find
workarounds.
and so, or the products on their site, but there is no contact button, but I show them how to market on the back end to let people know to
Wow.
your clients, to your email. Because to me, I'm like, you should be able to sell these products.
If you can sell them in the store, it's 2020, almost 2025 now. Why not be able to have
Yeah,
the internet? I mean, you work so hard to grow this following and to build this community. Why not? And I think there's a lot of inside of Stylist Soul Tribe, people do monthly master classes, different members of the community. And it was probably 2 years ago now at this point, someone did a master class about setting up your Amazon affiliate account. And so there's tons of hairstylists that are doing that. And then Prime Day comes around and they're linking all the heatless curlers and the hairbrushes and all their favorite tools. you make like 8 cents on Amazon affiliates. Like you don't make shit through
Yeah.
Amazon affiliates. And so everyone will say like, oh, that's something I want to focus on just like as an extra little side revenue. And it's like, sure, you can put your time and energy into that. But I think what you're saying revenue wise, but like I pay $39 a month for Shopify. Is that just what it stays no matter how much you sell, right?
Yep,
So
exactly.
you're saying anything that you would link to on Amazon, potentially you should just create that in your own online store?
If you can, yeah. And I tell people that and I go, look, I'm not telling you to do it now, but that's
Mhm,
keep something in your mind because I say, look, just like social media is for all of us,
mhm,
it's a whole avenue to our job that gets added. It's a whole branch,
mhm.
right? Like,
Yeah.
oh gosh.
Yeah.
And I go, so is an e-commerce store. You
Mhm,
have to put in that time and that investment, but it will
mhm,
create revenue. And so I say, look, we'll start with your products you have now. Let's
mhm.
talk in 6 or a year. You let me know if it's going well, if it's not. Ask me questions about how
Yeah.
we can better sell things. I have some girls who take full advantage and, hey, can we sit down and talk about what
Yeah.
ways I know I can be doing better, but I just don't know. I don't
Yeah.
have.
And sometimes just having someone to bounce ideas off of is so valuable.
Yeah, and I tell people, like, I've linked people directly to what I've purchased on Alibaba, and I tell them, you ask them for their WhatsApp or whatever, make a
Mhm.
relationship with these people and say, "Hey, this is my situation, and I'm willing to refer people to you. Can I do this?" And they will try to work with you if you're willing to
Incredible.
work with them. If a
Mm.
lot of people, I think, ask and they take a hard no, and they're like, "Oh, okay." But do these people want to make a relationship with you? And so
Yeah.
that has been one thing too, where I was like, "Hey, I'm just asking. Like, this
Mhm.
is my situation. This is where I'm at. This is my budget."
Worst they can say is no, and then you end up in the exact same situation if you didn't even ask.
Yep,
So
and that's
how
why I
many
said
products are you selling in your store on your store right now?
so actually, I just took down my skincare
Okay.
because I was like, "I'm building so many
Like you
sites."
said, that's a full-time job. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm selling stuff on the back end. My site is like password protected right now and just
Okay.
my clients have it. So I'm not like crazy selling. Even with just my clients, it's like an easy like $1 to $200 a week with
Mhm.
not having it public.
Yeah.
When I did have it public, it was like an additional for me about $800 a week.
Okay.
When I was
In
in
their
my
business right
prime
now.
though, it was about 12 to like $1,800 a
A
week.
week. And how
Yeah,
many products was the most amount on your site at one time?
probably honestly, no more than 150.
And
Um,
what does your house look like? Like, do you have a warehouse? Where are all these things living? How are you
oh my
packaging this
gosh,
all up? Because
I
I'm
had
telling you, I have a little bit of merch, Winnie, and my office, when it's time to ship stuff out, becomes chaos.
yeah. Yeah, it's so funny. I'm all looking around like
Yeah.
it's oh gosh, I looked back at this video back then. Oh my god, my poor son's bedroom, but they were my 2 sons and my husband, they're so down for me. They were
They're
just
probably
like
stoked. Yeah.
his room, I have this video, I'll have to send it to you. It was covered in boxes and it was like his bed on the side. But he was like, so I think too, I make them a part of it. What are we
Yeah.
doing? They love getting facials. And
Amazing.
and then when they see the money come in too, I'm like, look, and my 17-year-old now, he jokes, he's like, look, you fund my lifestyle.
No
So
kidding. Yeah,
whatever,
he wants to go start an e-commerce store. That
yeah.
is so
It's just in my
neat.
house. Yeah, it's rough. It's sometimes it's a lot even and there's been moments, where my man has been like, "Okay, Jess, like, what's the plan?
Yeah.
I just need to know the plan.
Yeah.
What's happening?" And
Yeah.
he's like, "Okay, you got a plan? Cool."
Yeah, as long as we have that.
Because
Wow.
even the packaging, people don't realize when they sit down and they're like, "Okay," and I'm like, "Okay, you need printing labels, a thermal printer, the pack
Yes, and
color."
even that, and I don't know about you, and maybe this is like such a stupid little thing. I'm looking at my Rollo thermal printer, which is right here on the ground. I have such a hard time connecting it to Wi-Fi, connecting my computer, getting things printed. I want to like ship it all cute and bundle it all up and have this like perfect setup. I've yet to figure that out. That's going to be a 2025 goal of mine, especially now after talking to you. I'm so inspired that I just had to ask like the real ugly behind the scenes because I've done such a small scale of this that I'm like, people also don't realize, but like you said, it's the thrill of it. Like that is fun, especially if someone does what you're saying and they hire you and it's this very intentional like roll out, build up, build the pressure, build the
Yeah,
excitement, open the doors. I am just obsessed with this. I think that is so fun. So now you still working, I would say behind the chair, what do you call it? With
yeah.
clients,
That's what
right?
I think. I'm like, "Is it behind the chair? Because
Yeah, behind the table. I don't know. Behind their head. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's so funny. I just moved really close to home to a super cheap, accessible area where I was like,
Yep.
I want to do the minimal amount of effort possible getting to
Yep.
work because I was having a commute. I was like, it's so crazy. I realized I hit this and I told Kate this too. I go, dude, like, I remember being like last year, like, hey, it would be really cool if my web design portion of my business just
Hmm.
replaced
Yeah.
esthetician and that I can just be an esthetician for fun because I
Yep.
want to. And that's where we're at.
Yeah.
And I miss that because, when I started in 2017 as an esthetician, 2018 is when it really took off.
Hmm.
And I remember I just had fun. I just loved throwing stuff together and doing all these things. And I think we've gotten to a point in the industry, and maybe similar to hairstylists, where
Hmm.
it's become so curated. And it's like, if you don't do it this way,
Hmm.
why aren't you doing it this way? And so does it this way. Da, 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 da,
Yeah.
da. And no, you got to be a specialist in this niche.
Mhm.
Otherwise, what are you
So
doing?
similar to
Yeah.
the hair industry.
And I became an acne specialist, which I did a good job at, but I
Hmm.
did that for a couple of years and it just became a lot. It's very
Yeah.
emotional, very personal. It was a lot of hand holding. And I was just like, okay, this is a lot. I've done a good job with it, but I think it took a lot of the energy out of me, especially after having the baby, that I was like,
Hmm.
I just miss having fun. I miss sitting down
Hmm.
and be like, ooh, what can I mess with today?
Hmm.
And finally I was like, you know what? That's my goal. I wanted to replace the esthetician role with my web design business.
Yeah.
And that way, when I go to work as an esthetician, I'm just chilling.
I'm in that exact same spot.
I,
How many
yeah,
days a week are you in the studio?
too.
Yep, Tuesday, Thursday, 2 6-hour days, unless I mark them off because I have other things. Like today's a Tuesday, I'm not in the salon just
Yeah.
because it's New Year's Eve. And could not agree more. It's funny how similar our paths are, and I am madly in love with it. And there's been times, or I'll read these quotes, or I'll hear from other people that say, like, you really have to like go for it. You have to like quit your job, go all in. And I'm like, I get a headache if I stare at my computer
Yeah.
5 days a week, 8-hour days. Like, I cannot do that. I like getting dressed. I like getting out of the house. I like physically touching people, in that way. And so I totally agree. I think last year, I haven't run the numbers for 2024, but I know in 2023, behind the chair was 15% of my annual income. Like 85% was from my online business, but I still like to spend 2 days a week behind the chair. I practice what I preach. My hands are still in hair. I still know what I'm talking about. And it just fulfills something in me. But I like variety. And it sounds like we're kind of the same in that way.
Yeah, it's so funny. I think after the baby, I went through mental health stuff and it was
Yeah.
just really hard. And so I did get to a point where I was like, I don't want to be around anybody. And I think
Yeah.
that's when web design came in. And I was like,
Mm.
it gave me anxiety just to have to be there and give the energy all day because I don't think I
Yeah.
had the energy for a long
Yeah.
time. And finally, I think this past year I started to come out of that. It's like
Hmm.
like, it's so funny. I think the anxiety makes me feel like, "Oh my god, a full day? That sounds crazy." But
Hmm.
once you get there, you're like, "Oh, hell yeah, like, this is cool." And so even my
Or if
clients.
you had 5 full days in a row, that really does start to drain your energy, but a
Yeah,
couple, you realize at the end of the day, you're like, no, I feel better now after
right.
going to work than
This is
not.
me going out also right now because this is my social life right now.
Yeah.
In a place like my goal too was like not only to replace that, but like with my kids, I wanted to be more present. My son is a senior. My other son's probably going to go full time to school in the
Yeah.
next year or a few months. And I was
Yeah.
like, I've never done that. And I've heard all these designers like, I've been able to be this more present. I was like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't I work from home more? And I did. I've been there. I was, throughout my entire son's football season, I was able to volunteer and be
I
there
love that.
and just be here for all his things. And my little one, we are so close. It's been so cool. I sit
Mhm.
down and look and I'm like, dang, a lot of moms don't get to do this.
No, a
And
lot of parents don't.
I was
Yeah.
like so emotional, like, oh my gosh, like, and this is
Yeah.
such a blessing. And he knows too. He's like, yeah, I'm just gonna build a website. He tells me, or even the other day,
Yeah.
down, he's like, all right, it's time for my facial. The little one, he asked for
It's
skincare.
so sweet.
So funny.
So
There's
sweet.
so
And I
many
know you're saying like hair industry versus skin industry, but I really would say, and this is just why I'm so passionate and why I have this podcast and why I do what I do. I think the beauty industry, one, is obviously very misunderstood by people that aren't in it. But
yeah,
truly, for those of you that are listening that are in the beauty industry in any way, shape, or form, the possibilities inside this industry truly are endless. From you sharing what you're doing with e-commerce to what I'm doing with a mastermind to I just am so obsessed with connecting with people like you and hearing
yeah.
all the possibilities. in spreading that message to more people, because I think a lot of people have that pull for something more. And again, it's 2024. And I just feel like back when I was brainstorming whatever my what's next was, I knew it was something. I knew I wanted to utilize the internet in some way and social media in some way. And I was listening to Gary Vee and trying all these different
Yeah.
things and YouTubing and all the content creation, all the different things. But I knew I wanted something beyond that. And I just know a lot of people who I end up crossing paths with feel the same way. So I love just highlighting stories like this and sharing. One, your story is going to inspire other people to, who knows what we can't even fathom could be their big idea that could exist a couple of years from now. But also, obviously, you can help the people that are listening to this, because I know we have some estheticians as well. So if anybody wanted to work with you and wanted to pick your brain or start bringing e-commerce in, what would that look like?
Yeah. So the easiest, I mean, the biggest way right now is going to my Instagram. So it's at by Winney,
And I
Bywinnie.
will have it linked in the show notes.
And then you can click the link in my bio. There's literally an inquiry form right there. If you just have a quick question, let's say you have a Shopify site or you're just even thinking about it.
Amazing.
I have estheticians DMing me all the time. I have people shouting me out all the time because, especially right now after Black Friday, seeing people's numbers or even just seeing people's pictures. And I know they don't think of me like, but they have stacked orders like, hey, I can't fit any
So
more
cool.
orders, so you got to come pick them up. And I'm like, this is crazy.
So cool.
So if any questions, I'm super open to them. But if you're really looking into something to work together with, I have two options. I try to cater to, if you just need the essentials, you're not somebody who needs this full-blown custom website, you're just getting started or you're just dipping your toes in, then there's an intensive option that's like 5-day turnaround and you get your web. The full custom, which typically is about 5 to 6 weeks, that is more for my girls who have client portals, resources page, private shops. They have education pages. We've have courses on there implemented onto Shopify. So they're like, I want everything in one place. They've implemented POS via Shopify. So now they've replaced their entire like booking system. Now they just use their booking system for scheduling and everything is housed in Shopify. So like you mentioned earlier, I think we're finally, thank goodness, out of the whole like, well, my booking system is my website. We're like, okay, we have a website option.
But even you saying, I mean, we're like coming up on 45 minutes. So I'm like, I want to keep picking your brain. So I'm just going to go there for this last question then. Because I was looking at under your talking points how Shopify does more than just help you sell product. And I didn't really ask you that. That still is boggling my mind that you are hosting everything through Shopify. Like when I think like my website is hosted through Wix, but you can click shop and it brings you to Shopify. And I think it's fascinating that you're saying you're doing everything there. So I guess break that down a little bit for me selfishly.
Yeah, so most of my girls, they have their basic intro. It's like not even like a, hey, this is my shop. I have some people who are like, hey, I still have my website over here. I want to keep it, but I do want Shopify shops. I'm like, all right. But most girls, it looks like a basic website. It's, hey, this is where I am, this is what I do. And then you start scrolling down, you shop by product, so we just infused a basic website into their shop as well. And like I said, there's an about page, there's a contact page, there's an FAQ page, there's a policies page. Because most of the scheduling systems like Vagaro, like Square, I know for a fact, Mango Mint, Boulevard, Jane app, and Acuity for sure embed. So we keep everything on the website. Book on their website, it doesn't even take them, which is bad for SEO, right? We don't want to click the site, but so they'll click book a booking page on the site and it's on their site. So they're not having to leave the site at all, which is great. I also always code in, because Shopify does not come with a links page that you can like have
like a link tree kind of vibe.
Because that's another thing. Why would you want to continuously use something that's not your website?
For SEO.
So I'll code in for everybody, no matter what project you choose. We'll do a links page through Shopify. I can code that in. Like you would have asked me to.
And that doesn't cost extra than the $39 a month.
No.
See, my wheels are even just turning as you're saying this right now. I'm like, I'm paying for Kajabi, and then that's linked to my website. I'm paying for Wix. I'm paying for Shopify. The amount of subscriptions that I have that all just, because over time you build things out and eventually I need to do like a whole clean out of everything and really streamline it for multiple reasons. But yeah, you're blowing my mind. So big Shopify fan, you would say, definitely.
Yes. Yeah, we do sales pages, and this is something I'm really gonna push in 2025 because everybody's like, "What's a sales page?" I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"Guys, in the beauty industry," and I'll leave them with this because the beauty
Mm-hmm.
industry, we do the whole, "Hey, this is what I offer now," or "Something's coming." Nobody cares.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
"Hey, this is what I do. Okay, go book it," and that's it. We
Yeah.
don't launch, we don't tell the story, we don't even give our services
Mm.
or products time to shine, even if it's one product you're bringing on, and then we're like, "Oh, alright, well, it's
I
doing all."
love this storytelling aspect that you're
And
talking about. Yeah.
that's something I really wanna get into, and I kinda do it with my custom girls because 'cause I'm like, "Hey, they're paying for a nice big project," and I'm like, so
Mhm.
I kind of infuse marketing with it too, so that
Yeah.
way they know, like, how to launch as soon as they get their website. We don't launch, we don't give our services and our products time to shine, but then we're,
Yeah.
like, upset when it doesn't, work out.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, nobody's, you're not telling
Yeah.
the story, you're not talking about it enough, and I tell people, if you feel like you're being annoying online, good.
Because if you're not being annoying, what, only 3% of your audience is seeing it anyway? So if you're annoying, then that means you're like mediocrely coming across their radar. But if you're just feeling like average and being polite and not overly doing it, almost no one is seeing that.
Yes, exactly. So
Mm.
I really am like, because I want them to make so much money too, and I've seen
Mhm.
that it's possible. And I'm all about doing less. Like this Shopify should work for you. I tell them this sales
Mhm.
page, just link, talk about it, to do the fun
Mhm.
storytelling and just have your link chilling in that story. It goes to a sales page that tells them about, for hairstylists, maybe the type of extension that you do, and talk about it.
Brilliant.
Show your before and afters. You talk about
The
your whys.
client experience.
What's your life like that you're dealing with right now? What's your life gonna be like after that, like the problems you're gonna solve?
Mm.
I guarantee you stuff like that on websites
I
should.
feel like we need to do another podcast episode just about a sales page because I'm obsessed with what you're talking about
Yeah,
right
yeah, so, I mean, I'm so excited to start talking about it,
now.
so, yeah,
Amazing.
it's crazy because I think, "Oh, well, why," in the design world, everybody knows, but in my
Yeah.
head, I'm like, "Nobody knows this in the
Different
industry."
ways of marketing. Why are we not utilizing that?
Yeah,
Incredible. Okay, I am excited. I feel like I'm going to be one of those people sliding into your DMs very regularly. I'm very grateful to have made this connection. Like I said, I will put all of Winnie's information in the show notes. I'll put your Instagram, I'll put your website. You can send me anything else that you want me to link. And like she said, she's a real person. She answers her DMs. Shoot her a DM if you have any questions or any thoughts. Thank you again, Winnie. I would not be surprised if this is not the last episode that we have together because I feel like we could go off on many little tangents.
yeah.
This is so fun.
No, thank you so much, this is really cool, and thank you to Kate.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. So glad for that connection being made. Okay, well, thank you everybody so much for listening. Like I said, everything will be linked in the show notes, and I will talk to you all next week. Bye.
Bye.